And finally, these are the cleats Josh Dobbs sported on the football field this weekend. The Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback and, of course, former Vol tweeted this picture yesterday.
The team has called this effort #MyCause.MyCleats. Dobbs chose to honor Girls Inc. of the Tennessee Valley, and we'll let him tell you why.
So Girls Inc. is an organization that's nationwide, and their motto is, empowering girls to be smart, strong, and bold. So what they do is they take different after-school programs in various areas across the country, and they go in and pour into these girls' lives. Through one specific thing they do is STEM, and I'm really closely related to that, obviously, with my major.
Thoughtful young man. Of course, Josh Dobbs was an aerospace engineering major at the University of Tennessee. He was very involved with Girls Inc., and that group says his support means a lot.
It's a huge benefit. Not only does it shed light on an important cause we have about raising awareness about girls' issues and getting girls involved in opportunities that they may not be in, but it also just sheds light on the important work that needs to be done in regards to making sure that girls are empowered and feel like they have the confidence to take on any challenge.
Girls Inc. of the Tennessee Valley began back in 1976. You can find a link to get involved at WBIR.com. Such a great way to get a message out on cleats, and certainly a great group to profile.
Without